Welcome back, deep divers. We're here for another plunge into the depths of knowledge, and as always, we aim to bring you the core of the matter without getting lost in the seaweed.
That's right. We know you're curious. You want to grasp these complex topics, but you don't necessarily have all the time in the world to, become an expert yourself.
Exactly. Today, we're going headfirst into a real literary behemoth, James Joyce's Finnegans Wake.
Ah, yes. Finnegans Wake, published in 1939 after 17 years of composition. 17 years. That's dedication, or perhaps obsession.
Well, whatever you call it, it resulted in a book that's been both revered and reviled, debated, and dissected ever since it hit the shelves.
And you, our listeners, have brought us an amazing collection of sources for this deep dive. We've got the ever-reliable Wikipedia, of course, and then some more specialized perspectives from academic institutions like the University of Limerick and the Université de Bourgogne.
Oh, and we can't forget the Contemporary Music Center. There's a surprising amount of music woven into this book. And, of course, we always appreciate the passionate insights from the fan community, so we've got something from Joyce Geek as well. Plus, we've got a musical map courtesy of Spotify.
A real treasure trove of material. So, where do we even begin with a book as notoriously complex and multi-layered as Finnegans Wake?
Well, for starters, it's divided into 4 parts, with 17 chapters in total.
Right, and no traditional chapter titles, mind you. So when you see those cryptic references like I.5 or 3.2, those simply refer to Part 1, Chapter 5, Part 3, Chapter 2, respectively.
Exactly. We're going to try to illuminate the key aspects for you, whatever plot we can actually pin down. The characters, and they are a memorable bunch, the central themes. Joyce's absolutely unique style, especially his use of language, which, well, it's in a category of its own.
Oh, it most certainly is. And we can't forget the web of allusions he weaves throughout the text, drawing on everything from mythology to history to popular culture.
And of course, we'll explore how Finnegans Wake was initially received and how interpretations have evolved over time. We'll even touch on the surprising musicality of the work. It's more musical than you might think.
So let's dive right in, shall we? And maybe the most sensible place to start is with the plot, or at least try to get a handle on what little of it we can actually grasp. Because if there's one thing most readers seem to agree on, it's that the story in Finnegans Wake, well, it's not exactly straightforward.
To put it mildly, some might even say the plot is practically non-existent, more of a dreamlike flow of images, puns, and allusions.
That's a very poetic way of putting it. It's definitely not a book you read for a clear, linear narrative. It unfolds in a very non-linear fashion, much like a dream where logic and chronology don't quite apply.
Like trying to follow a conversation in a crowded pub after you've had a few too many pints. And it's built in these 4 parts, as we mentioned. Part 1 is the longest, with 8 chapters, and parts 2 and 3 have 4 each, and part 4 is just a single shorter chapter.
And it's this last chapter that really emphasizes the cyclical nature of the wake. The very last words of the book flow directly into the opening words, creating this never-ending loop.
Like a snake biting its own tail, the end is the beginning, and the beginning is the end. So let's try to find some solid ground in this swirling river of words, shall we? Part I introduces us to this central figure, Humphrey Chimpton Earwicker, or HCE, as he's often referred to. Now, that's a mouthful of a name. Where on earth did he get a nickname like Earwicker?
Well, the origin story, which we find in I.2, is a perfect example of the book's playful absurdity. Apparently, this Sailor King character sees Harold, or maybe it's Humphrey Chimpton, trying to catch earwigs using a flower pot on a stick. You know, one of those classic childhood contraptions while he's working at a toll gate.
A rather peculiar image, isn't it?
Oh, it's absolutely delightful in its strangeness. And somehow, that bizarre little scene sticks and the name Earwicker becomes attached to him.
And this HCE becomes quite a prominent figure in Dublin, right? A bit of a here comes everybody type.
Precisely. His initials, HCE, become this recurring motif, popping up in countless variations throughout the text.
Like a musical theme weaving its way through a symphony.
Exactly. And it signifies his widespread presence in Dublin life, even though he's also shadowed by this persistent rumor, a scandal involving a supposed sexual indiscretion in Phoenix Park.
Ah, yes, the infamous incident in Phoenix Park. And typical of Finnegans Wake, the details of this event are never really clear, are they? It's more about the whispers, the gossip, the speculation.
Exactly. The specifics change with each retelling, highlighting the power of rumors and the unreliability of memory. It's less about what actually happened and more about how the story evolves and takes on a life of its own.
The whispers become louder than the truth.
Oh.
Then in I.5, we encounter Anna Livia Pluribel's letter, which seems like a pretty crucial piece of the puzzle, perhaps even a key to unlocking some of the book's mysteries.
It's definitely a focal point for a lot of scholarly interpretation. This letter, supposedly dictated by ALP to their son Shem, who's a bit of an artist, a writer, and intended for delivery by their other son, Sean, who's a more, shall we say, conventional type. Well, it never actually reaches its destination.
Right, it ends up on a rubbish heap, where it's discovered by a hen named Biddy. Talk about a bizarre twist of fate.
Oh, it's classic Joyce. So, what's the significance of this letter? Is it HCE's defense, or does it further incriminate him? Well, that's the million-dollar question.
The letter that both exonerates and condemns.
Precisely. It's seen as both an attempt to clear HCE's name and, simultaneously, a subtle indictment. It's a fascinating study in the slipperiness of language and how something can be interpreted in so many different ways.
Trying to clear your name and just muddying the waters further. And then we have this detour in I.6, 12 riddles. What's the purpose of this interlude?
Well, Chapter 1.6 serves as a kind of pause in the narrative, a chance for Joyce to offer a more multifaceted view of the characters, both major and minor, through this playful format of riddles and their corresponding answers. It's a way of presenting different facets of their personalities, their relationships, and their roles within the larger narrative.
Characters as puzzles within puzzles. Very Joycean. Now, the final chapters of Part I shift our focus to Shem and ALP. Chapter 1.7 is ostensibly about Shem, but it's largely filtered through Sean's perspective, isn't it?
Right. It's almost like Sean is engaging in a character assassination of his brother, portraying him as a forger and a fraud. But then ALP reappears and offers a contrasting perspective, seeming to defend Shem against Sean's harsh judgment.
A mother defending her artistic son from his more practical brother. And then we reach Chapter 1.8, Anna Livia Pluribel, which is often praised for its incredible beauty and lyricism.
It's definitely considered a masterpiece in its own right. This chapter is dedicated to Shem's mother, Anna Livia Pluribel, and it's characterized by this amazing weaving together of thousands, yes, thousands of river names from all over the world.
It's like the very lifeblood of the world is flowing through this chapter. Joyce described it as a chattering dialogue across the river by two washerwomen who, as night falls, become a tree and a stone.
What an evocative image.
Oh, it's truly stunning. These washerwomen are gossiping about HCE and ALP, and their conversation gradually transforms into ALP's own voice, her monologue as the River Liffey itself. It's a powerful evocation of the flow of time, the interconnectedness of all things, and the enduring presence of the natural world.
From gossip to the voice of a river, what a journey. Okay, let's move on to Part 2, which shifts our focus to a more grounded setting, Earwicker's Pub.
Yes, Part 2.3 is primarily set in the bustling atmosphere of Earwicker's Pub, and it's here that we get these two contrasting narratives presented through the then-novel mediums of radio and television. It's fascinating how Joyce incorporates these modern technologies into this dreamlike world. What are these stories that are being broadcast?
The first is The Norwegian Captain and the Tailor's Daughter, which is seen as a representation of HCE's domestication, settling down with ALP and starting a family. The second story, How Buckley Shot the Russian General, is more dramatic, and it portrays HCE as a Russian general during the Crimean War, who's shot by an Irish soldier named Buckley.
And the patrons in the pub see this as a symbolic overthrowing of HCE by his sons, Shem and Sean, right?
Exactly. They see Buckley's act as a kind of generational rebellion. And adding to the tension, HCE is called away during the second tale, and when he returns, he faces the disapproval of his customers, leading to this forced, drunken confession of his supposed wrongdoing.
Oh man, that's intense. And the chapter ends with a pretty dramatic transformation, doesn't it?
It does. The police arrive, everyone leaves, and HCE, left alone to clean up, undergoes this remarkable transformation into Rory O'Connor, the last High King of Ireland, before finally passing out.
So we go from a drunken confession to an ancient Irish king in the span of a few pages, only in Finnegans Wake. Now, Part 3 seems to bring Sean more directly into the spotlight.
Yes, it opens with this strange narration by the ass of the Four Masters, no less, which describes a vision of Sean the Post. We then find Sean floating down the River Liffey in a barrel, where he's subjected to a series of questions about the mysterious letter he's carrying.
A floating interrogation. How does Sean handle this?
Well, Sean, ever conscious of his public image, responds with a mix of evasion and self-promotion. His answers focus mainly on praising his own virtues and criticizing his brother Shem. It's clear he's not the most reliable narrator.
More concerned with appearances than truth. And then in Chapter 3-2, Sean reappears in this new guise, Jaunty John, and delivers a rather suggestive sermon to his sister Issy and her schoolmates. What's going on here?
Throughout part 3, we see Sean undergoing this strange regression, aging backward from an old man to an infant. It's like he's becoming a conduit for his father's voice, a kind of spiritual medium.
A very strange father-son dynamic, to say the least. And this sets the stage for HCE's attempt at a defense in 3.3, haveth childers everywhere.
Right. This section is HCE's attempt to justify his actions, to offer his side of the story, although it's still incredibly fragmented and elusive. Part 3 then concludes in the bedroom of Mr. and Mrs. Porter at dawn, where a moment of intimacy is interrupted by their son's nightmare.
So from grand pronouncements to the everyday anxieties of family life, Part 4 is a single chapter, and it has a very different feel, doesn't it?
Yes, Part 4 is like a series of interconnected vignettes, including sections titled St. Kevin, Berkeley and Patrick, and the Revered Letter. It returns to a more fragmented, dreamlike narrative style, offering glimpses and echoes of earlier events and themes.
And the book ends with ALP's voice once more, doesn't it?
It does. We hear ALP delivering this long, poignant monologue as the River Liffey. She tries to wake her sleeping husband, reminisces about their past, and expresses a hope for renewal. The book ends with her flowing into the ocean at dawn, and the very last fragment of her monologue loops back to the beginning, completing that unbroken circle.
The river flowing into the sea, the end becoming the beginning. It's a beautiful and haunting image. Now let's talk about the characters who inhabit this ever-shifting world. The Earwicker family is clearly at the center of it all, but their identities seem incredibly fluid. HCE, for instance, is known by a dizzying array of names.
Whoa, absolutely. HCE is referred to by literally thousands of different names throughout Finnegans Wake. It's like his identity is constantly in flux, adapting to the different contexts and interpretations of the narrative.
And his initials, HCE, become this recurring motif, this hidden signature woven into the fabric of the text.
Exactly. They appear in countless phrases and allusions, most famously in the opening sentence as part of Howth Castle and Environs. As the story progresses, his names become increasingly symbolic and abstract, drawing on figures from Irish legend like Finn McCool, the mysterious Mr. Makel Gone, and the more mundane Mr. Porter.
And then there's the character of Finnegan himself, whose fall and wake are described in the opening pages. How does he connect to HCE?
Many critics see Finnegan as a kind of archetype for HCE, a figure whose story is replayed in different forms throughout the book. He's described as a man of hod, cement, and edifices, linking him to building and construction, and his fall and subsequent lively wake can be seen as foreshadowing HCE's own downfall and the public scrutiny he faces.
So Finnegan's story is like a microcosm of the larger cycles within the book. What about Anna Livia Plurabelle, ALP? She seems to embody a different kind of fluidity.
ALP is HCE's wife and the mother of their 3 children, Shem, Sean, and Issy. She's very strongly associated with the River Liffey, representing its constant flow, its changing moods, and its enduring presence as the heart of Dublin.
And then we have the contrasting brothers, Shem and Sean. They seem almost like two sides of HCE's personality.
Yes, they represent these opposing tendencies. Shem the penman is the artist, the writer, often seen as a self-portrait of Joyce himself. He's intellectually brilliant and creatively driven, but also unconventional and perhaps a bit of an outsider. Sean the post, on the other hand, is the conformist, the one who follows the rules. He appears as a straightforward, even dull postman. They are rivals for their sister Issy's affection and also symbolically compete to replace their father.
And Issy, the daughter, she occupies a rather elusive space in all of this.
Issy is often depicted as fragmented, like a reflection shattered into many pieces. She's the object of desire for both her father and her brothers, highlighting the complex and often unsettling family dynamics that the book explores.
A very tangled web of relationships indeed. What about the minor characters? They seem to drift in and out, taking on different roles as the narrative unfolds.
The most notable are the 4 old men known collectively as Mamalujo, a combination of their individual names. They act as narrators, judges, inquisitors, and they even symbolize things like the 4 masters of Irish history, the 4 evangelists, and the 4 provinces of Ireland. Joyce even suggested they could represent members of his own family. Then there's this recurring group of 12 unnamed men who pop up as pub customers, gossips, jurors, and mourners. Their identities are constantly blurring and shifting, adding to the dreamlike quality of the book. And we can't forget Kate, the maid, and Joe, the handyman, who some believe could be older versions of ALP and HCE.
So the minor characters aren't just background noise. They're active participants in this dreamlike world, contributing to the book's thematic richness. Now let's talk about the major themes that underpin this complex tapestry. We often hear about two big questions that remain tantalizingly unanswered.
Yes, the central mysteries of Finnegans Wake revolve around the nature of HCE's secret sin and the true meaning of ALP's letter. Despite decades of interpretation and debate, neither is ever definitively revealed to the reader.
It's like Joyce is deliberately leaving these gaps, these spaces for us to fill with our own interpretation.
Exactly. He's inviting us to participate in the process of meaning-making. Now, HCE's sin is often interpreted as representing something much larger than a single transgression.
Like a universal human failing, perhaps.
Precisely. The most common interpretation is that it represents original sin, the fall of man, this inherent flaw that we all carry within us.
And ALP's letter remains this ambiguous piece of evidence capable of both exonerating and condemning HCE.
It's a perfect symbol of the subjective nature of truth and the slipperiness of language. The letter can be read in so many different ways, and each interpretation reveals something new about the characters and the themes of the book.
It's like holding a prism up to the light and seeing all these different colors emerge. Now, the whole book has this incredibly dreamlike quality. Is the concept of the dream itself a major theme, or even the very framework of the narrative?
Absolutely. The interpretation of Finnegans Wake as a dream has been a dominant critical lens, although there's still debate about whether it's the dream of a single character, most likely HCE, or an exploration of the nature of dreaming itself.
So the dream becomes a way for Joyce to break free from the constraints of conventional narrative and explore these deeper psychological and philosophical ideas.
Exactly. It allows him to play with time, identity, and reality in ways that would be impossible in a more traditional novel. And then there's the theme of cyclical history, which Joyce drew from the work of Giambattista Vico.
Vico's idea that history repeats itself in these cycles.
Right. Vico proposed a three-stage cycle of civilization, the ages of gods, heroes, and humans, and he believed that this cycle recurred throughout history. This cyclical view is reflected in the structure of Finnegans Wake with its circular opening and closing, and it's also woven into the very fabric of the narrative.
Like the constant ebb and flow of the tides.
Exactly. And then, of course, there are the countless allusions to Irish mythology and history, which add another layer of depth and complexity to the book.
It's like Joyce is grounding this dreamlike narrative in a very specific cultural and historical context.
Precisely. Characters like HCZ often echo figures from Irish legend like Finn McCool, and the book is filled with references to real-life Irish historical events and personalities. But these allusions are never straightforward. They're always being twisted and transformed to fit the dreamlike logic of the wake.
Like looking through a kaleidoscope of Irish history and mythology. Now let's dive into the real heart of Finnegans Wake, its language.
Ah, yes, the language. It's what makes the book so unique, so challenging, and ultimately so rewarding. Joyce's writing style here is truly in a category of its own.
It's like he's inventing new language as he goes along. One of the most striking features is his use of portmanteau words, blending multiple words together to create these new, often humorous expressions.
Oh, there are countless examples. Words like wordwoomber and voisumanar, they're like linguistic puzzles that invite us to decode their multiple meanings. And then there are those infamously long, almost unpronounceable words, the ones with dozens of letters.
The ones that take up half the page.
Exactly. They've been interpreted as representing everything from thunderclaps to historical upheavals. And beyond those linguistic inventions, Joyce uses sound in an incredibly masterful way.
He was a poet at heart, wasn't he?
Absolutely. He uses assonance, alliteration, and onomatopoeia to create these rich oral textures. Even the way he structures sentences, the way he places words together, it's all very deliberate, very musical.
It's like the language itself is performing a symphony. And this brings us to the musical allusions, which are woven throughout the text. Even the title, Finnegans Wake, is a musical reference.
It is. It's a direct allusion to a popular Irish ballad. And throughout the book, we find references to countless other songs and musical pieces, from folk tunes to classical compositions to popular hits of the day.
There's even a CD series featuring some of the actual songs mentioned in the book, which is pretty amazing.
It's a great resource for anyone who wants to explore the musical world of Finnegans Wake. Joyce himself even composed a song specifically for the book, The Ballad of Percy O'Reilly.
So music isn't just a decorative element. It's deeply integrated into the very structure of the book. And it goes beyond traditional music, doesn't it? There are connections to avant-garde and experimental music as well.
Absolutely. Composers like Luciano Berio, John Cage, and Samuel Barber have all been inspired by Finnegans Wake, creating pieces that explore the sonic possibilities of language and experiment with form and structure in ways that echo Joyce's own techniques.
It's remarkable how this one book has sparked so many different artistic responses. And even seemingly simple children's songs find their way into this complex tapestry.
Oh, yes. Joyce weaves in allusions to songs like Baba Black Sheep and Mary Had a Little Lamb, but he often uses them in surprising ways, connecting them to deeper themes and ideas. He even uses them to make subtle references to Irish history and mythology.
It's like he's taking these simple songs and transforming them into something entirely new and unexpected. Now let's shift our focus to how Finnegans Wake was actually received by the world. It's safe to say it wasn't an immediate hit, was it?
Not at all. The initial reaction, both to the serialized excerpts and to the complete book, was overwhelmingly negative. Even Joyce's closest friends and family struggled with it. His own brother Stanislaus called it an incomprehensible nightbook, and his former friend Oliver St. John Gogarty dismissed it as a hoax.
Ouch. And literary giants like Ezra Pound and H.G. Wells weren't exactly singing his praises either, were they?
No. Pound, despite his early support of Joyce, questioned whether anything could justify the book's difficulty, and Wells famously asked, "Who the hell is this Joyce who demands so many waking hours to appreciate his work?" Even Harriet Weaver, Joyce's loyal patron, expressed concerns about the book's darknesses and unintelligibilities.
So even among the literary elite, there was a sense of bewilderment and even frustration, and those feelings were echoed in the broader literary community, weren't they?
Absolutely. Critics called it everything from gibberish to a literary monstrosity. Some acknowledged flashes of brilliance, but ultimately found it impenetrable. It took quite a while for critical opinion to begin to shift.
So what were some of the turning points that led to a more positive reception?
While early champions like Thornton Wilder recognized that there was a hidden structure and meaning to be uncovered, and the publication of A Skeleton Key to Finnegans Wake in 1944 provided readers with a guide to the book's complex allusions and themes, making it more accessible to a wider audience. Over time, more and more critics began to appreciate Joyce's linguistic innovations and the book's thematic depth and complexity.
So it went from being dismissed as nonsense
Yeah.
to being hailed as a masterpiece.
Pretty much. By the mid-20th century, prominent critics like Northrop Frye and Anthony Burgess were praising Finnegans Wake as a landmark achievement in literature. It's interesting to note that even scholars who had very different interpretations of the book maintained a respectful and even friendly relationship. It highlights the fact that Finnegans Wake is a book that invites multiple readings and interpretations.
It's a book that continues to challenge and inspire readers and scholars alike. Now, before we wrap up, let's talk briefly about the book's publication history. It wasn't released all at once, was it?
No, it wasn't. Joyce published significant sections of the book serially in the literary magazine Transition under the working title Work in Progress. Several key sections were also published separately as pamphlets or small books. This piecemeal publication history undoubtedly played a role in the book's initial reception, as readers were encountering these fragments of Joyce's evolving style over a period of years.
It's like they were getting glimpses of a puzzle being assembled over time. Finally, let's touch upon the incredible level of language play in Finnegans Wake and the ongoing efforts of scholars to unravel its many layers. We've talked about portmanteaus, but Joyce also plays with the spacing and structure of words, doesn't he?
Oh, he does. He breaks words apart, rearranges syllables, and even hides entire phrases within seemingly nonsensical strings of letters. It's like he's challenging us to look at language in a new way, to see the hidden connections and meanings that we often overlook.
And even punctuation takes on a new significance in Finnegans Wake.
Absolutely. Joyce uses punctuation in unconventional ways to create ambiguity and multiple layers of meaning. Even a simple question mark can be laden with significance.
It's like he's taking the building blocks of language and creating something entirely new and wondrous. We see him blending words from multiple languages, creating these dense, multi-layered puns. The doornail passage is a great example of
Oh,
that.
it's brilliant. By combining elements of Irish, Annamese, Danish, and Dutch, Joyce creates a pun that incorporates linguistic history, cultural references, and even a bit of humor. And then there's the Orangatonia passage, which is packed with potential allusions to everything from orangutans to surrealist art to the city of Oran. He even throws in words from less well-known languages like Fulfulde, connecting them to Ethiopian folklore and Aesop's fables. It's simply astonishing, the depth and breadth of Joyce's linguistic knowledge.
It's mind-boggling how much he manages to pack into every single sentence.
It really is, and I think that's one of the most important things to keep in mind when approaching Finnegans Wake. It's a book that demands patience, attention, and a willingness to get lost in its linguistic labyrinth.
And perhaps the real reward lies not in finding definitive answers, but in the journey itself, in the act of exploring and discovering the book's many layers of meaning.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Finnegans Wake is a book that invites us to play with language, to challenge our assumptions about storytelling, and to embrace the ambiguity and complexity of the world around us.
So to our listeners, we encourage you to take the plunge. Dive into Finnegans Wake and see what treasures you can uncover. Whether you're fascinated by the musical allusions, the linguistic experiments, the enigmatic characters, or the philosophical underpinnings, there's something in this book for everyone. It's a journey you won't soon forget.
And one that you can revisit time and time again, always discovering something new.
That's the beauty of a book like Finnegans Wake. It's a well that never runs dry. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time for another adventure in knowledge.
Until then, happy reading.
And happy dreaming.
Please go to finneganswakenotes.net for a full explanation of the text, and please don't forget to hit the like button.